headed to a conference of the Texas Association of CDCs. Our good friend Steve Carricker, Executive Director, we're going to meet him. He's one of our members. And right behind me is the statue of Barbara Jordan. Apparently was the first African American woman to be elected to Congress from the South, civil rights leader, and excited to be in Austin because it's a hip place from what everyone tells us, so we're off. The Texas Association of Community Development Corporations, known as TACDC, is headquartered in Austin, the state capital. They have members from all over the state: Houston, Dallas, Brazos Valley, Brownsville. I was invited to TACDC's conference to speak about NCDA and the future of community development, along with Mark Pinsky of OFN.
Sam has taken on the very, very formidable role of managing NCDA, and as you all know, being involved with nonprofit work, it is, especially for a relatively young startup organization, it's always a challenge. He's equipped for the challenge. Please help me welcome Sam Yoon.
Before I begin, I think I want to ask the most important question for maybe some of you in the audience. Who was at Espin's Follies? Sam, you're going to tell them. Take that box. Lean forward. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Steve Carricker has an interesting background. He was a Texas state legislator for 12 years. He founded and ran a CDFI, which is a community development financial institution, and he was also a farmer.
I rented all of my land to a cousin, and the farming methods he used compared to when I quit just a few years ago are so different that I'm glad I'm not trying to keep up with an old dog that doesn't need to try to learn those new tricks.
Today, Steve is taking us to see the folks at People Fund, which is a CDFI that in a former life was the Austin Community Development Corporation, or Austin CDC. Gary Linder is the president and CEO of People Fund.
This is our logo, of course, and that has, the 3 leaves.
Key.
Is it a key? It's a key, and then there's a key also. It's sort of like this is the key to success. And we're unlocking the door to your potential in your future. Yeah. And then the ones with the up arrows kind of represent housing. We do affordable housing projects, and we've had great success with that. And then, as I said, so we use the 3 leaves: lending, housing, and then technical assistance and support to our clients. Okay. So that's kind of the 3 components of our mission.
You apply the same principles.
Right.
You just try and put on belts and suspenders, and you do what you can to try and make it work.
Hey, what happened to your head? I think it's Catholics, Ash Wednesday. Amy's our director of lending and underwriting. She could make a lot more money as a banker, but she has a passion for community. Will is our director of finance, but really he goes well beyond that. He's a brilliant statistician and modeling. So,
I don't think you said I was a model there. For
A large part of our agenda is to just tell the story of community development to a larger audience. Although we've all learned that's a bad word, apparently.
we revitalize, we bring in necessary
but this stuff
enhancements. And Mark
Pinsky
gave, and you talked about community development. People have a negative connotation.
We can't afford bureaucracy.
in Texas, only state that's growing in population.
The growth in Texas population was greater than the growth in all the other states.
And then it was off to see David Long, who runs T-Shack, which is the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation. Would you call yourself a quasi-governmental agency?
We don't like the word quasi-governmental.
Yeah.
I think the word quasi is somewhat unique. I mean, we are a governmental entity. Where, as Steve said, we're statutorily mandated into existence. But the authority that we receive in terms of being a governmental entity allows us to have the bonding authority, which is very important to us.
Yeah, nonprofit with bonding authority. Okay.
And I know that there's other entities like us.
Yeah.
To what extent they have that kind of authority, I don't know. When we go out and seek funding and those types of things, when we first started into this, some of the entities said, well, aren't you part of the state? And you have to get real careful about You know, that because they don't want to give to the state because the attitude is well, the state already has its own resources.
Yeah.
So we had to step away from that. And one of the things that we did is Janie actually redeveloped our logo so it looked less like a state seal and more like a nonprofit seal or a nonprofit logo, which we had done. I moved here from California after graduating from college because my wife was going to school here, and I've never regretted moving here. It's just been, I mean, it's changed a bunch in the 30 years I've been here, but I've really enjoyed it. It's just it's a really unique, neat kind of environment here.
Lunch was at Hoover's Cooking, a favorite lunch place in Austin. Then we head back to Steve's office at TACDC, and after a wide-ranging discussion about community development, we get to talking about his home state. What is it about you Texans?
We're a state that is a very large state, obviously physically. Has become a very large state in population and a very large state economically. It's an extremely diverse state. It's a state with a large number of very rich citizens and an incredibly large number of very poor, underserved citizens. It's a state that was once its own country. From 1836 to 1845 was an independent republic, and very much accustomed to self-determination, as it were. We sometimes are not as patriotic as we ought to be. And I'll admit that, you know, I saw a bumper sticker, two bumper stickers on the same pickup truck. And this guy had a bumper sticker that had the emblem of one of the armed forces and said very proudly, "My son helps keep America safe, serving in the Marines, the Army," whatever the emblem was. And right below that sticker was another sticker which said simply, "Secede." So sometimes we Texans got a little mixed up on patriotism and how we really are a part of the larger nation, and how our fate really is not separate from that nation, but is one with it. We Texans need to remember that we're a part of a larger nation, and that not only do we benefit from being a part of that larger nation, but we have an obligation to provide the benefits that our state can to that larger nation. We are one nation, and we should act like it.
From the eastest to the westest, it's just Texas, Texas, Texas. So get loudy and get proudy, you rowdy Texas crowd. Here we